Hello darlings and welcome back to another episode. This is Alan from Rhiane's. Welcome back to my little classroom. In this video, we're going to talk about how you can cook your own phrasal verbs at home, because we're going to understand the logic of what is happening with a phrasal verb. So hopefully you'll be able to, when you see them in print, you'll be able to make a better guess at what they mean. And also you might be able to start making your own up, guessing what they should be. I hope you can. Let's get started. Just before we do that, let me have a little digression. Phrasal verbs seem like just absolute nonsense. But if you're coming from a Romance language, and many others, you have an absolutely analogous structure. Have a look at this little selection of verbs here. I've color-coded them. Romance languages also, just like English, connect a verb and an arrow, a vector, a direction. The difference, as you can see, is that the direction in Romance languages is expressed with a prefix right there at the beginning of the verb, the bit in red. Okay? These don't look strange to you if you say detract or compose, repel. You're just doing the same as English speakers do with phrasal verbs. So here's a selection of some of the most common words in English that express direction, movement in space. Have a quick look. I'm hoping most of these will be familiar to you. As a matter of interest, several of them come in opposite pairs. Why don't you just pause the video for a moment and see if you can identify 6 pairs of opposites. Pause the video now. So did you find them? Well done. Give yourself 6 points. Back to our little selection of vectors. Now you'll be glad to know that I am not going to make a video about each one of these. And I don't need to. I'll be making videos about a few of the monsters, such as these ones. The monsters are those where the vector, the arrow, has been developed a lot metaphorically, it's gone a long distance, or it's just evolved a really weird idiomatic meaning. So it's not at all clear. However, for the rest of these, the ordinary ones, you just need to know where the arrow is going. You just need to know that. There's no more difficulty. Now at this point, I'm going to pass over to our roving reporter on location at the front door. Alan, can you hear me there?
Okay, so let's just imagine there's some dirt on this glass here. What's the right direction? Well, it's on, so it needs to come off. So we know that part already. We know that the vector, the arrow, is off. What verb are we going to use? Well, you've got a few options. If it's just dry, you could maybe just wipe it off. If that doesn't work, you might have to wash it off, use some liquid. And if that doesn't work, you might have to scrape it off.
We have to say the off, we have to say the I and the it, but we can choose an interesting verb if we know one. First of all, let's talk about the basic verbs that you're going to use all the time. All the time. And basically, I think of them as the big 6. Go and come are basically one verb. It just depends on the direction. So those are your basic verbs for people moving. What about if we want to move things? In grammar, we have to mention the object, and those are called transitive verbs. So what verbs do we use for moving things? Here are the big 3. Put, take, and bring. And with those, you can do just about anything you need to do. Number 6 of the big 6 is get. And the good news is you can use it either as transitive or intransitive. It's just a great verb for talking about people moving or people moving things. A little footnote is that we particularly like using get when we're trying to reach this destination or reach this state, and it's not clear if we can do it. There may be some difficulty or some uncertainty. So in this case, I got home. I got the kids out of the house on their way to school. So get can have that special meaning of I managed it despite the uncertainty. I got through the selection process. I got a job. Whew, hard work. Great. Those are the big 6. Okay, so let's have a look at she went out. The 2 parts, one of them says where, out, no surprises, no tricks, and the other one is how. And the how is not very interesting because go doesn't really tell us anything interesting. Could we replace it with something a little bit more interesting? Oh yes, we have hundreds of words for people moving, hundreds. I'll mention just 3 today. Maybe she went out in a casual, nonchalant, relaxed way. She strolled out. Maybe she went out quietly and nobody noticed her leaving. She slipped out. Maybe she went out very briefly and came back just after a minute. In which case we say, she popped out. Have a look at these 3. Let's have a look at another example. They went along the road. We've got an expression, along the road, for where, and we've got the word went, again, for how. And again, it's not very interesting. Maybe we can substitute it with a bit more detail. So, maybe they cycled along the road, or they hiked along the road, or they drove along the road, or they ran along the road. And the final example is going to be this movement, the opposite of this. What's our word for that movement? Well, our word is together, and the opposite is apart. Okay, so we're using together. What's one of the boring verbs? Let's say put. I think that has to be our choice. Put them together. Great. Again, we could be a bit more interesting. Well, there are lots of ways of attaching things, putting them together, depending on if we're talking about bits of wood or bits of paper or whatever. You can attach things using these. You can attach things using this, this, etc., etc., etc. Now, each one of these obviously has a name, and basically we just use the name as a verb. So we get a few options like this. So for example, I stapled them together, or I clipped them together, or I glued them together, or I taped them together, or I screwed them together, or I nailed them together. So many options. So the main message for today, the thing I really want to leave you with is the following. Don't think of a phrasal verb as one unit that you have to remember. It doesn't work. There's no sense. Think of it as solving 2 small separate problems. We need to find the right word for the direction. Now, the world will tell you what the right verb is, whether it's round or out or back. And the other small problem is your choice of verb. And there, as we've seen, you've got some flexibility. So if you can remember anything interesting, use one of the big six. But if you've got a little bit more vocabulary, swap one of those out and put in a more interesting one, okay? So instead of one big problem, you've got two small problems to solve. And I hope that in that way, phrasal verbs will start to make sense. And like I said, you might even be able to imagine your own versions. Okay, lots of luck phrasaling away. I'm going to wrap up, switch off, and head back. Take care. Bye.